Mommy hasn't eaten. When a mafia boss enters a bakery, a simple act of mercy becomes a deadly test of loyalty. One woman is trapped between survival and her soul, where every choice has a brutal consequence. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The smell of warm bread could not hide the smell of fear. Elena wiped her flour-dusted hands on her apron, her eyes fixed on the black car that had just parked right outside Pain de Sol, her bakery. Two big men got out first. They looked around, their eyes like chips of ice. Then he got out, Mr. Alessandro Rossi. He didn't look like a monster, he wore a fine grey suit. He looked like a businessman, but everyone in this part of the city knew what he was. The peace was a lie. He was the storm. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The offer had been made last week. A polite man named David explained how her thriving, cash-heavy bakery was perfect for their investments. She had stammered, asked for time to think. Time was up. The bell above the door jingled, a sound that usually meant comfort. Now it sounded like a warning. Rossi walked in, the two men staying by the door. The bakery, bright with morning sun, suddenly felt small and dark. Before Elena could force a greeting, a small movement by the alley window caught her eye. Her blood went cold. A little boy, maybe 6 years old, stood there. His clothes were too thin, his face was pale. He was peering at the day-old bread rack she kept near the door for discounts. And behind him, half hidden in the alley shadow, was a woman, the boy's mother. She looked tired, her eyes huge with hunger and shame. Elena had seen them before, hovering at the edges of the market. She had always meant to give them something, but she'd been so busy, so scared herself lately. Rossi stopped in the middle of the bakery. He picked up a ciabatta loaf, feeling its crust. He didn't look at Elena, he was waiting. This was his stage. The boy, emboldened by the quiet, pushed the door open. The bell jingled again. Both of Rossi's men turned, their hands moving inside their jackets. Rossi glanced over, his expression bored. The boy looked straight at Elena. His voice was a small, clear thread in the silent room. "Excuse me, lady," he said. "My mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days. Can you share some expired bread, please?" The mother rushed in then, her face red with panic. She grabbed the boy's arm. "Daniel, I told you to wait," she whispered harshly. She looked at Elena, then her eyes flicked to Rossi and the stone-faced men. Her fear doubled. She tried to pull Daniel back. "We are sorry, so sorry, we will go." But Daniel held his ground, his eyes locked on the discounted rack where a bag of slightly stale rolls sat for half price. He was doing what he thought was brave. Elena stood frozen. Every instinct screamed to help the child, to grab a fresh loaf, some cheese, anything, but Rossi was watching. He had put the ciabatta down and was now leaning against the counter, his arms crossed. A small, cold smile played on his lips. This was the test. She knew it in her bones. David had said Mr. Rossi valued loyalty above all. Loyalty meant following his rules. His business came first, always. Showing softness in front of him could be seen as a weakness. A woman who could be swayed by a crying child was a woman who could be swayed by the police, by guilt, by anything. But he was just a little boy. Rossi's voice cut through the thick air. It was smooth, quiet. "You have customers, Signora Elena." He said it like it was an interesting fact. Elena's mouth was dry. She looked from Daniel's hopeful face to his mother's terrified one, then to Rossi's unreadable eyes. If she shooed them away, was that strong? Or was it cruel, and maybe Rossi hated cruelty that had no purpose? If she helped them generously, was that kind? Or was it disobedient, showing she had a heart that could interfere with business? She made a decision. It felt like jumping off a cliff. She walked to the discount rack, her legs shaky. She picked up the bag of stale rolls. She saw the mother's shoulders slump in relief. She saw Daniel's small smile. Then she walked past them to the bin by the counter. She dropped the bag of rolls into the trash. "The expired goods are disposed of at noon," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "It is store policy. We cannot give them away. It is a health risk." Daniel's face crumpled. A small sob escaped his mother. She hugged him close, turning to leave, her whole body trembling with hunger and humiliation. Elena's heart broke, but she didn't look at them. She looked at Rossi. He was staring at her. The cold smile was gone. His dark eyes were calculating, weighing her action. She had chosen the business. She had chosen a cold, logical rule over mercy. She had done it in front of him, proving her priorities. He gave a slow, single nod. Then he turned to one of his men. "Paul," that was all he said. The big man, Paul, stepped forward. He didn't go to Elena. He walked to the mother and child who were almost at the door. He blocked their path. The mother flinched, shielding Daniel. Paul pulled out a thick wallet. He took out several large bills. He pressed them into the woman's hand. "Take the boy to Rossi's ristorante," he said, his voice flat. "Tell them to feed you. Tell them Paolo sent you. They will give you a job washing dishes. The boy can eat in the kitchen." The woman stared at the money, her mind unable to process it. She looked at Rossi, then at Elena, confusion and fear in her eyes. Rossi spoke, still looking at Elena. "A strong business has no room for sentiment, Signora Elena, but a strong leader must clean up the messes in his own backyard. Street beggars at a place I am investing in, it looks bad. It is a distraction." He was talking about the woman and child like they were a spilled drink, a problem to be tidied. His solution was not kindness, it was efficiency. It removed the eyesore and potentially gained a loyal, indebted worker. He had shown her the difference between her small, cruel action and his large, calculated one. She had failed a deeper test. "Your decision was interesting," Rossi said, walking closer to the counter. He tapped the glass display with a clean fingernail. "You showed you can be hard, but you did not think of the larger picture, only of the immediate rule. This is a start, we will work on the rest." He was letting her in, but she was on a very, very short leash. "The first shipment arrives Friday," he said. "Your new oven is paid for, you will bake your wonderful bread, and a few special deliveries will be made in the flour sacks. David will explain, do you understand?" Elena nodded, unable to speak. The horror of what she had just done to that boy was now mixed with the terror of what she had just agreed to. "Good," Rossi said. He finally looked at her directly. "Remember, Elena, in my world the right choice is not about being nice or being mean. It is about being smart. Today you were only a little smart. Be smarter next time." He turned and left, his men following. The black car drove away. The bakery was silent. Elena ran to the door and looked down the alley. The woman and Daniel were gone, probably on their way to the restaurant, a twist of fate she could never have imagined. She walked back to the trash bin. She pulled out the bag of stale rolls. She sat down on the floor behind the counter, the bag in her lap, and she cried. She cried for Daniel's hungry face. She cried for her bakery that was no longer hers. She cried because she had passed a test by failing at being human. And she knew this was just the beginning. Mr. Rossi would be back, there would be more tests, and next time the stakes would be higher. Friday came too quickly. The new oven, huge and shiny, stood in the back. It was a monster and it had been paid for with dirty money. David, the polite man, arrived with two other men. They carried in heavy, dense sacks of special flour. Elena was to use this flour for certain batches of dough. The finished loaves would be picked up by specific drivers. She was not to ask questions. She baked her normal bread in the morning, the comforting smell now feeling like a lie. In the afternoon she baked the special loaves. They felt heavier. She tried not to think about what was inside them. That evening, as she was closing, the bell jingled. It was Daniel's mother. She looked cleaner, less desperate. She held a small paper bag. "Signora," she said softly, I am Stella, my boy is Daniel. I got the job at the restaurant, they feed him." She placed the bag on the counter. "They let me take some leftover pasta. I thought I wanted to say thank you." Elena stared at the bag. Shame burned her face. "You should not thank me," she whispered. "I threw your bread away." Stella looked down. "The man, Mr. Rossi, he helped us after, because of you. If you had given us the bread, maybe he would not have noticed. Maybe we would still be hungry. It is a strange way, but God works in strange ways." Elena wanted to scream. God had nothing to do with this. It was all a cruel game by a Mafia boss, but she saw the genuine gratitude in Stella's eyes. Rossi's plan had worked perfectly. He had created loyalty in Stella, and he had confused Elena completely. "Take the pasta, Stella, feed your boy. You don't owe me anything," Elena said. Stella nodded shyly and left. Elena locked the door and slid to the floor. The web was getting more tangled. Stella now felt connected to her and to Rossi. Elena was responsible for them in a twisted way. Weeks passed, the special deliveries continued. Elena became good at pretending. She smiled at normal customers. She packaged the heavy loaves without expression. David came often, checking the books, which were now full of fake numbers. He was always polite, always calm. One rainy Tuesday, Rossi visited again. He didn't bring his men inside this time. He just walked in, shaking water off his expensive coat. He bought a simple croissant. "How is our arrangement?" he asked, taking a small bite. "It is fine," Elena said. "And the woman, Stella. She works at your restaurant. She is grateful. Rossi nodded. Gratitude is a better chain than fear. It lasts longer. He looked around the clean, warm bakery. You have done well. The deliveries are smooth. You are quiet. You are careful. Elena said nothing. She waited for the other shoe to drop. I have a dinner tonight, Rossi said casually. At my restaurant, a business meeting. I want you to come, to bake the bread for the table yourself, a personal touch. It was not an invitation. It was an order, a new test. Of course, Mr. Rossi. Good, be there at 7, wear something nice. He finished the croissant, paid with a large bill and told her to keep the change. He left. Elena's mind raced. A dinner with his business associates. She was a baker, not a guest. Was she meant to be a servant, a display, or something else? That night she put on her only nice dress, dark and simple. She arrived at Rossi's ristorante at 5 to bake the bread on site. The kitchen was huge and busy, and there by the sinks was Stella. Her eyes widened when she saw Elena. Signora Elena, you are cooking for Mr. Rossi. Just the bread, Elena said, trying to sound normal. Stella beamed. He is a good man, no, he checks on Daniel sometimes, brings him a toy car. A cold knot tightened in Elena's stomach. Rossi was weaving Stella and her son deeper into his world, making them part of his property, and he was making sure Elena saw it. She baked the bread, focaccia, ciabatta, grissini. At 7, the head waiter told her Mr. Rossi wanted to see her in the private dining room. Her heart pounding, she walked through the elegant restaurant to a closed door. The waiter opened it. The room was full of men, tough-looking men in good suits. They sat around a long table covered in food and wine. At the head was Rossi, and to his right, in a clean shirt that was too big for him, sat Daniel. The boy was nervously eating a piece of bread. Rossi saw Elena and smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Ah, the artist. Come in, Elena, meet my friends. All the men looked at her. Their eyes were appraising, curious, some cold. She recognized a few faces from the news, crime figures. Your bread is excellent as always, Rossi said. Daniel here loves it, don't you, boy? Daniel nodded shyly, his eyes on his plate. Stella is a good worker, Rossi continued, speaking to the table. Loyal, her boy is clever. In this world we look after our own. We find talent in unusual places, even in a back alley. He let the words hang in the air, his gaze on Elena. Elena found them first. She showed initiative. Elena stood by the door, feeling like a specimen under glass. He was using her, Stella, and Daniel as a story, a parable for his men about loyalty, control, and finding value. He was showing them how he turned a baker into a launderer, a beggar into a worker, a boy into a pet. He was showing his power to rewrite lives. Thank you, sir, Elena managed to say. Join us, Rossi said, pointing to an empty seat next to a broad-shouldered, silent man with a scar on his cheek. Eat, you are part of the family now. The word family felt like a snake curling around her ankle. She sat down. The food tasted like ash. The men talked about things she didn't understand, shipments, territories, problems. Daniel finished his food and fidgeted. Rossi let him go, patting his head. Go help your mother in the kitchen, Daniel, be a good man. The boy scampered out, relieved. The scarred man next to Elena, whose name was Marco, poured her a glass of red wine. He didn't speak to her, he just watched. Rossi stood up, raising his glass. To new partnerships, he said. To growth and to clarity. In our business you must see things clearly. You must know a person's heart, their weakness, their strength. He looked right at Elena. You must know if they will break under pressure or if they will bend in the right direction. A tree that does not bend snaps. Everyone drank. Elena took a tiny sip. Her hand was shaking. The dinner felt like it lasted years. Finally, the men began to leave, shaking Rossi's hand. When only Marco and one other guard remained, Rossi walked over to Elena. Walk with me, he said. He led her out a back door into a small, walled garden behind the restaurant. It was still drizzling. A single light bulb shone above the door. You did well tonight, he said. You were quiet, you observed. You did not try to run to Stella or the boy, you understood your place. What is my place, Mr. Rossi? The question escaped her before she could stop it. He lit a cigarette, the flame illuminating his sharp features. That is what we are finding out. Tonight was another test, to see if you could sit with wolves without crying. You passed. And if I had failed, if I had tried to leave? Rossi blew out smoke. Then you would not be useful, and I do not keep things that are not useful. He said it simply. But you did not fail. You are stronger than you look, Elena. I saw it that first day. The way you threw away that bread, it hurt you, but you did it. That pain is a strength, it means you can carry weight. He was talking about her guilt, her shame, as if they were tools. Why was Daniel at the table? She asked. To remind you, he said. To remind everyone that I hold lives in my hands. I can put a boy in a warm kitchen or I can leave him in a cold alley. It depends on the choices people make. Stella makes good choices. She works hard, she is grateful, she asks no questions. You are making good choices. So Daniel eats pasta and plays with toy cars. It is a simple equation. It was monstrous. It was also perfectly logical in his twisted world. I understand, Elena whispered. Do you? He turned to her. The next test will be harder, a problem will come. You will have to solve it your way, I will be watching. How you solve it will tell me everything. What kind of problem? She asked, dread filling her. He smiled, dropping the cigarette and crushing it under his shoe. If I told you it would not be a test. Go home, Elena, bake your bread. Wait. He went back inside, leaving her alone in the damp, dark garden. The problem came 2 weeks later. It arrived in the form of a man in a cheap suit. He had a kind face and a badge. He was from the Financial Crimes Unit, Detective Salvatore. Good morning, Signora Elena, he said, showing his badge. Beautiful bakery, smells amazing. I just have a few questions about your suppliers. Your flour purchases have increased quite a bit recently, and your new oven is very expensive for a small business. Can we talk? The test had begun. Elena's throat closed up. She wiped her hands on her apron, the same one she'd worn the day Rossi first walked in. She forced herself to breathe, be normal, be calm. Of course, detective, she said, her voice only trembling a little. Can I offer you a coffee, a pastry? Detective Salvatore smiled. It was a tired smile. No, thank you, this won't take long. Your books, from what we can see at the tax office, show a big jump in business. That's great. But the numbers for your flour, you're buying enough to feed the whole neighborhood. And the payment for that oven, it was a single cash transaction. That's unusual. Elena's mind raced. David had told her what to say. Business has been good, she said. I supply bread now to 3 new cafes, and the oven, I had savings from my father. It was his dream for me to have a proper bakery. The lies felt heavy in her mouth. I see, Salvatore said, writing in a small notebook. He didn't look convinced. And these cafes, their names. Elena listed them. They were real cafes, they did buy her bread. David had set it up that way. To make her story true on the surface. The detective nodded. We'll check, it's probably nothing, just routine. You know, with Mr. Alessandro Rossi taking an interest in this area, we have to be extra careful. You haven't had any unusual investors, have you? The mention of Rossi's name was like a punch. This was the test. Rossi had said a problem would come. Was the detective the problem, or was the test about how she handled the detective? I know who Mr. Rossi is, she said carefully. Everyone does, but he is not an investor here. This is my bakery, just mine. She looked him in the eye, trying to seem honest and a little offended. Salvatore held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded, putting his notebook away. All right, Signora. Thank you for your time. We might have more questions later. Enjoy your day. He left, the bell jingled. Elena leaned against the counter, her legs weak. She had done it. She had followed David's script. She had passed. But the fear didn't leave. It grew, because Rossi had known the police would come. He had made them come to test her, which meant he had influence with the police or he had tipped them off himself. The game was much bigger than she thought. That afternoon, David came in. He didn't even ask about the detective. He just said, Mr. Rossi is pleased. You handled the fly well. A fly, Elena whispered. That was a police detective. David just smiled. A buzzing fly, you swatted it with the right words. Good. Now there is a delivery tomorrow, a special one. You will receive the flour, you will bake the loaves, but you will not be here for the pickup. I will handle it. Why? Elena asked. A cold feeling crept up her spine. Mr. Rossi has other plans for you. You are to take the day off, visit the market, buy something nice. Then at 3 o'clock go to the park, the one near the fountain, sit on the 3rd bench, read a magazine. Elena stared at him. Why? Because you are told to, David said, his polite smile never fading. It is not a request, Elena. It is the next step. She had no choice. The next day she did as she was told. She pretended to shop. Her hands were shaking. At 3 she went to the park. It was a pretty park. Children played. Old men fed pigeons. She sat on the third bench by the fountain. She opened a magazine, but she couldn't see the words. After 10 minutes, someone sat down next to her. It was Stella. Elena jumped. "Stella, what are you doing here?" Stella looked nervous but happy. "Mr. Rossi's driver brought me. He said you asked to see me, to have coffee with a friend. It was so kind of you to think of me." Elena's blood ran cold. Rossi had set this up. He had brought Stella here using Elena's name. Why? To watch them, to listen. It's good to see you," Elena said, forcing a smile. "How is Daniel?" "He is wonderful." Stella's face lit up. "He has a little bed in the storage room at the restaurant. It's warm. He eats so well. Mr. Rossi, he brought him a picture book yesterday. He is not what people say, Elena. He has a good heart." Elena wanted to scream. Instead she nodded. "I'm glad." They talked for 20 minutes. Stella talked about her job, about Daniel's laughter, about how safe she felt. Elena listened, her heart breaking. Stella was in a golden cage, and she didn't even know the door was locked. A black car pulled up to the curb. It was Rossi's driver. Paul got out and walked over. "Ladies," he said, "time to go. Stella, back to work. Elena, Mr. Rossi would like a word." Stella hugged Elena quickly. "Thank you for the coffee talk. We are so lucky," she whispered. Elena got into the back of the car. Paul drove. They didn't go to the bakery or the restaurant. They drove to a quiet street of old, beautiful houses. They stopped in front of the biggest one. It had high walls and an iron gate. "Go in," Paul said, "through the front door." Elena walked up the path. The door opened before she could knock. A serious-looking older woman, a housekeeper, nodded and led her inside. The house was grand but cold, full of expensive things but no warmth. She was led to a study. The walls were covered in books. A big desk stood by the window. And there, standing with his back to her, looking out at the garden, was Alessandro Rossi. He turned. He was wearing a sweater, not a suit. He looked more like a professor than a mafia boss. It was more frightening. "Elena," he said, "sit." She sat in a chair in front of the desk. "You had coffee with Stella," he said. "It wasn't a question. You arranged it." "I did. I wanted to see how you are with her, if you are a friend or if you are her superior, the woman who controls her fate." "I don't control anything," Elena said, a spark of anger cutting through her fear. "You do," he said softly. "Your performance with the detective kept her kitchen job safe. Your continued cooperation keeps Daniel with toy cars. Your choices ripple out, Elena. You are learning that." He walked around the desk and sat on the edge of it close to her. "The detective will be back. He is not a fly. He is a dog with a scent, my scent. He will push harder next time. He might threaten you. He might offer you a deal, to wear a wire, to testify." Elena's breath caught. "This is the next test," Rossi said, his dark eyes locked on hers. "The real test. The police will give you a choice. I am giving you your choice now, before they do." "What choice?" Her voice was a dry leaf. "To be truly part of my family. Not just a baker who hides money, but a member, with protection, with purpose, or to be an outsider, an employee who can be discarded if the police pressure becomes too great." He was offering her a deeper hell or abandonment. If she was just an employee, he would let the police take her when it suited him. If she was family, he would protect her, but she would belong to him completely. "What does family mean?" she asked. "It means loyalty without question. It means your problems are my problems. It means I would kill for you and you would lie for me. It means you would not just bake the special bread. You would help plan the deliveries. You would help manage others like Stella. You would have a voice and you would have a share, real money, enough to buy 10 bakeries." He paused. "It also means there is no walking away, ever." The room was silent. Elena could hear the clock ticking on the wall. "Why me?" she whispered. "I'm just a baker." He stood up and walked to the window again. "Because you are careful, because you are smart, because you have a heart but you can lock it away when you need to. That first day, you chose the business over your heart. That is rare. Most people are ruled by fear or by sentiment. You are ruled by survival. I need that. My organization needs that. We are getting older. We need new minds, fresh minds who understand the modern world." He turned back to her, "And because of the boy. Daniel." "Yes, that moment was not just a test for you. It was a sign for me. It showed me a pattern, a mother and child in need. A woman with a skill trying to survive. It felt like a piece of a puzzle clicking into place. I do not believe in chance, Elena, I believe in opportunity. You Stella, the boy, you are an opportunity, a small cell, a new kind of operation. Clean, quiet, domestic, built on gratitude and bread, not just fear and bullets. He was a madman, a brilliant, terrifying madman. He was building a new part of his criminal empire around her bakery and a homeless woman. What do I have to do? She said. The question meant she was already considering it. She hated herself for it. The detective will return in a few days. He will offer you a deal. You will refuse. Firmly, you will throw him out of your bakery. You will call me immediately after. Then you will come here for dinner. Not in the restaurant, here with me. We will talk about the future. He was asking her to burn her last bridge to the normal world, to openly choose his side. And if I say no, if I take the detective's deal? Rossi's face went very still. The kindness vanished, replaced by something ancient and cold. Then you are not the person I thought you were. You are a liability, and Stella and Daniel, they become a lesson about what happens to people who betray the family. The choice is yours, Elena, but choose wisely. Your survival and theirs depends on it. He picked up a small bell from his desk and rang it. The housekeeper appeared at the door. Show Signora Elena out, he said. He didn't look at her again. The drive back to her apartment was a blur. That night she didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling. She thought of Daniel's face asking for bread. She thought of Stella's grateful smile. She thought of the detective's tired eyes. She thought of Rossi's cold, empty study. She was trapped. If she sided with the police, Rossi would destroy Stella and Daniel to punish her. He would make it slow and horrible. If she sided with Rossi, she would be a criminal. She would lose her soul. But Stella and Daniel would be safe, even comfortable. It was no choice at all. Rossi had designed it that way. He had tied her conscience to two innocent people. Her weakness, her guilt over throwing away the bread, had become his strongest chain. 2 days later, Detective Salvatore returned. This time he wasn't smiling. Signora Elena, we need to talk seriously. We know about the cash. We know about the fake invoices for the cafes. We have witnesses. You are in very deep trouble. But we can help you. You can help yourself. He laid it out. They wanted her to record her conversations with David, with anyone from Rossi's organization. They wanted her to wear a wire to a meeting. In return, they would protect her. They would give her a new identity far away. It's your only way out, Salvatore said, his voice earnest. Rossi will use you up and throw you away, or worse, help us put him away. Elena listened. She thought of the new identity, a new city, a new life, alone but safe, and what of Stella, of Daniel? The police would not protect them, they couldn't. Rossi's men would find them before the police even got Stella into a car. She saw the test clearly now. Rossi had predicted every word. Her heart pounded. She thought of his cold eyes. You will throw him out. She took a deep breath. She let all her fear turn into anger. She pointed at the door. Get out. Signora, please. Get out of my bakery, she shouted. Her voice was loud, shaking. I have told you the truth. I have no business with criminals. You are trying to ruin me. Get out and do not come back. The detective looked shocked, then resigned. He saw the sheer terror in her eyes and mistook it for defiance. He put his card on the counter. When you change your mind, it will be too late. Call me before that happens. He left. The moment the door closed, Elena's legs gave way. She slumped behind the counter, trembling. She had done it. She had chosen. With shaking hands, she took out the cheap phone David had given her. She pressed the only number saved in it. It's done, she said when he answered. Good, David's voice said. Mr. Rossi expects you at 8, the house, wear the black dress. The housekeeper let her in again. This time she was led to a dining room. A small table was set for 2, candles were lit, soft music played, it was intimate, it was horrible. Rossi entered, he smiled, a real smile this time. Elena, you look beautiful. He pulled out her chair, he poured her wine, he served her food, it was like a date from a nightmare. You were magnificent today, he said. The detective called his superior from his car. He said you were too scared to talk and fully under Rossi's thumb. Perfect, you have proven your loyalty. What happens now? Elena asked, pushing food around her plate. Now you are family, he said. He lifted his glass. Welcome, Elena. She lifted hers, they clinked. The sound was like a cell door closing. Your first task as family, he said, is to help Stella. She is good, but she is simple. She needs guidance. You will be her guide. You will teach her to keep the books for the restaurant. Simple books, the clean ones. You will also start teaching her son. The boy should not grow up ignorant, he should learn numbers, how to read properly. He was making her their boss, their teacher. He was weaving their lives together so tightly they could never be pulled apart. You will also meet the others, Rossi continued. Marco, who you sat next to at dinner, he will be your liaison, your protector. You will report to him and he will report to me. You will have a new phone, a secure one. You will receive instructions and you will give instructions to Stella. It was happening, she was becoming one of them. After dinner he showed her to a room upstairs. This is your room for when you need to stay here. For safety or for work, it is yours. The room was beautiful. It had a soft bed, a writing desk and a window overlooking the walled garden. It was a lovely prison. Marco, the scarred man, drove her home later. He didn't speak until they reached her apartment. "Welcome to the family, Sorelina," he said. "Little sister." His voice was gravelly but not unkind. "The boss sees something in you, do not make him regret it, for your sake and for the woman and the boy." He drove off. Elena went up to her empty apartment. She sat in the dark. She had sold her soul, but she had bought safety for Stella and Daniel. That had to count for something, didn't it? The weeks that followed were a strange new routine. She ran her bakery by day. She taught Stella simple bookkeeping in the bakery's back room 2 afternoons a week. Daniel would sit at a small table, colouring or learning his letters from Elena. He called her Zir Elena, Aunt Elena. It broke her heart every time. She met with Marco regularly. He was quiet, stern but fair. He explained the structure, how money moved, what could be said on the phone and what could only be said in person. She started to understand the vast, shadowy machine she was now a part of. One evening, Marco took her to a nondescript office building. Inside a plain room, Rossi was meeting with a few other men. These were not the loud dinner crowd. These were the planners, the accountants, the real brain of the operation. Rossi introduced her simply as Elena, our new logistics coordinator for the northern sector. The men nodded respectfully. She was in. She began to use her brain, her natural skill for organization, to improve the system. She suggested a better way to rotate the pickup drivers for the special bread, so they wouldn't be recognized. Rossi listened and approved. She felt a terrifying sense of pride. She was becoming good at this. One night, Rossi asked her to stay late at the house. They worked in his study going over numbers. It was very late when they finished. He walked her to the door of her room in the house. "Elena," he said, his hand on the doorframe, "you have exceeded all my expectations." He was standing close. She could smell his cologne. He looked at her not as a boss but as a man looks at a woman. It was confusing and frightening. He leaned in and kissed her. It was not violent, it was possessive, certain, as if she already belonged to him in every way. She didn't pull away, she couldn't. The web held her too tightly. He pulled back, his dark eyes searching her face. "Good night, Elena," he whispered. He turned and walked down the hall to his own room. She went inside, closed the door and slid down to the floor. The kiss was the final lock. She was not just his employee, his family member. She was becoming his. The next morning at the bakery she felt different. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with a strange power. People knew. Marco was more deferential. David called her Signora Elena with new weight. Stella looked at her with a mix of awe and fear. She was rising in the family, and as she rose, the world outside faded. The bakery was no longer a dream, it was a front. Her apartment was just a place to sleep. Her real life was in Rossi's world. Then the real storm hit. It started with a missed delivery. One of the special bread vans was stopped by the police. A routine traffic stop, they said, but the driver panicked. He tried to run, he was caught, and the van was searched. They found the bread, and inside the bread they found the money. It was on the news that evening. Police uncover novel money smuggling operation using local bakery. They didn't name the bakery, not yet, but they had the driver, and the driver would talk. Rossi summoned everyone to the house. The mood was tense, angry. The driver was a weak link, he had to be silenced. "We have a man inside the police station," Rossi said, his voice like ice. "The driver is in a holding cell. He will have an accident before morning, but the damage is done. The police have the method. They will look at all bakeries with new ovens with high cash flow. They will come here, to you, Elena." All eyes turned to her. "You must disappear for a while," Rossi said. "You will stay here in the house. We will say you are sick. The bakery will be closed for a family emergency. Marco will handle the cleanup. Elena nodded, numbed. But there is another problem, said an older man named Vittorio. The woman, Stella, she knows things, she does the books for the restaurant if the police lean on her. They will lean on her hard, Rossi finished. He looked at Elena. She is your responsibility, can she hold, will she break? Elena thought of Stella's grateful, simple faith, her love for Daniel. The police would threaten to take Daniel away. Stella would break in seconds. She would tell them everything about the books, about Elena, about the meetings at the house. She will break, Elena said quietly. Then she is a liability, Vittorio said coldly. She must be removed, the boy too, cleanly. Elena's head snapped up. No. The room went silent. No one ever said no to Vittorio. Rossi looked at her, his expression unreadable. Elena, this is business, this is survival. You said they were family, Elena cried, standing up. You said we protect our own. Stella is loyal, she has done nothing wrong. Her existence is the problem, Vittorio hissed. She is a loose thread. We pull it before it unravels everything. Elena turned to Rossi, her eyes pleading. There has to be another way. Let me talk to her. Let me take her away. Hide her, please. Rossi stared at her. He was weighing her loyalty against her sentiment. The test was here, the hardest one. Would she choose the family's safety, or would she choose Stella? Please, Elena whispered again. You gave them to me. You made them my responsibility. Let me handle it my way. Rossi was silent for a long, long minute. The other men shifted nervously. Finally he spoke. You have 24 hours. Take Marco, handle it, but understand, Elena. Handling it does not mean letting them go, it means making the problem disappear. Permanently, if you cannot do that, then Marco will, and you will watch, do you understand? She understood. He was giving her a choice. Kill Stella and Daniel yourself or watch Marco do it. It was the final descent into hell. She met his gaze, her heart turning to stone. I understand. Marco drove in silence. Elena sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the dark streets. Her mind was empty, a white noise of horror. She had 24 hours, a death sentence she had to carry out. Where are they? Marco asked, his voice flat. At the restaurant, in the storage room. It's after closing, they'll be asleep. Marco nodded. He drove to the back alley behind Rossi's ristorante. He parked in the shadows. He took a pistol from under his seat and checked it. The sound of the slide racking was loud in the quiet car. You have a plan, saw Elena, he asked, not looking at her. Elena looked at the heavy back door of the restaurant. Stella and Daniel were on the other side, sleeping, trusting. Stella trusted Mr. Rossi. She trusted Zia Elena. I need to talk to her alone first, Elena said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Calm, dead. To make it easier for her to explain, then we do it. Marco studied her face. He saw the resolve, the deadness in her eyes. He saw what he needed to see. He handed her a small, sleek pistol. It was cold and heavy. Make it quick. For the boy, one shot, he won't feel anything. Elena took the gun. It felt like a poisonous snake. She put it in her purse. I'll be here, Marco said. 5 minutes. If you're not out or if I hear a struggle, I come in. Elena nodded. She got out of the car. The night air was cold. She walked to the back door. She had a key. Rossi had given it to her so she could meet Stella for lessons anytime. The door unlocked with a soft click. The kitchen was dark, lit only by the exit sign and the glow of streetlights through a high window. It smelled of garlic and disinfectant. She walked past the huge stoves and sinks to the small hallway that led to the storage room. Her heart was a drumbeat of terror, but her mind was clear, a terrible, awful clarity. She pushed the storage room door open. A small nightlight was plugged into the wall. In the dim glow she saw 2 cots. Stella was on one, sleeping deeply, exhausted from her shift. Daniel was on a smaller cot, curled around a stuffed dog. He looked so small. Elena's breath hitched. She couldn't. But she saw Rossi's cold eyes. She saw Marco waiting outside with his gun. She saw Vittorio's ruthless face. If she didn't do it, they would. And they would make it hurt. And then they would kill her too for failing. She walked over to Stella's cot. She gently put a hand over Stella's mouth. Stella's eyes flew open, wide with panic. She started to struggle. Stella, shhh, it's me, Elena, Elena whispered fiercely. Stella stopped fighting. She saw Elena's face in the dim light. Confusion replaced fear. She sat up as Elena removed her hand. Elena, what is it? What's wrong? Is it Daniel? She immediately looked over at her sleeping son. Stella, listen to me. You have to listen and you have to do exactly what I say. Your life and Daniel's depend on it. Do you understand? Stella nodded, her eyes huge. The police, they are coming for you, tomorrow. They know you work for Mr. Rossi. They think you know things. They will take Daniel away from you. Put him in an orphanage. They will put you in prison for a very long time. Stella gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. No, but I know nothing. I just wash dishes. I do the books you showed me. It doesn't matter, Elena said, her voice urgent. They will use you to get to Mr. Rossi. And when Mr. Rossi finds out the police have you, he will think you talked. He will send men, worse men than the police. Do you understand what that means? Stella understood. The colour drained from her face. She began to tremble. What do we do? Oh God, please, Elena, help us. I am helping you, Elena said. She grabbed Stella's shoulders. This is the only way. You have to disappear, tonight, right now. You have to run and never come back. But how? We have no money, no papers. Where will we go? Elena reached into her purse. She took out the gun. Stella flinched back. No, please. Not for you, Elena said quickly. She put the gun on the cot, then she took out a thick envelope. It was all the cash she had saved from Rossi's share, thousands of euros. She pressed it into Stella's hands, then she took off her own coat. It was plain dark. Put this on, wake Daniel, be quiet as a mouse. Stella, moving on pure instinct, shook Daniel awake. Baby, wake up, we have to play a quiet game, a secret game. Daniel rubbed his eyes, confused but trusting his mother. Elena helped him into his shoes and a sweater. Listen, Daniel, you have to be a super spy, no talking until Mommy says, okay. He nodded, his eyes serious. There's a man outside, Elena whispered to Stella. In a black car. He is waiting for me to finish the job. He thinks I am in here killing you. Stella's breath caught. When I walk out that back door, I will signal to him that it is done. He will drive away. You will wait exactly 2 minutes, then you will take Daniel and you will run out the front door of the restaurant. Do not look back. Run to the train station. Take the first train going anywhere. Use the cash, buy new clothes, cut your hair, change your names, never contact anyone from your old life. Ever. But they will know you helped us, Stella whispered, tears streaming down her face. Let me worry about that, Elena said. She hugged Stella tightly, then knelt and hugged Daniel. Be a good boy for your mother, be brave. I will, dear Elena, he whispered. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She picked up the gun from the cot. She walked to the door. She looked back once. Stella was holding Daniel, both of them silhouetted in the nightlight, looking like ghosts already. Elena walked back through the dark kitchen. Her plan was insane, it would never work. Marco would see right through it. She stopped just inside the back door. She took a deep breath. She raised the pistol. She pointed it at the ceiling in the direction of the storage room. She fired one shot. The sound was enormous in the silent building. It echoed off the metal stoves and tiles. A single, final crack. Then she screamed, a short, choked-off scream of fake horror. She dropped the gun on the floor with a clatter. She waited 3 seconds. Then she pushed the door open and stumbled out into the alley, her hands over her face, pretending to sob. Marco was already out of the car, his own gun drawn. Elena, what happened? It's done, she sobbed, her body shaking with real tremors. It's done. I had to. The boy woke up, he saw I had to. She let her words become a mess of fake guilt and horror. Marco looked past her into the dark kitchen. He saw the gun on the floor just inside the door. He heard the utter silence. He put a hand on her shoulder. You did what you had to do, for the family. Come, we must go, the shot will bring police. He led her to the car. He didn't go inside to check. Why would he? He heard the shot. He heard her reaction. He saw her distress. She was a woman who had just killed a mother and child. Of course she was a wreck. He drove away quickly. In the restaurant, Stella clutched Daniel, her hand over his mouth. They had both jumped at the gunshot. They waited, frozen, for the 2 longest minutes of their lives. Then, as instructed, Stella grabbed their one small bag, took Daniel's hand, and they crept out the front door into the night. They vanished into the maze of the sleeping city. Back at the house, Rossi was waiting. He stood in his study. Well, Marco spoke. It is done, one shot. She is upset, but she did it. Rossi looked at Elena. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. She looked destroyed. He walked over to her, he took her face in his hands. The hardest thing is the first time. You have passed the final test, Elena. You are one of us now, completely. He pulled her into an embrace. She stood there stiff, her mind screaming. She had not passed his test. She had betrayed him. She had chosen Stella and Daniel over the family. If he ever found out, her death would be slow. But for now, she had to pretend. She had to be stronger than she had ever been. "Thank you," she whispered into his shoulder. "Go to your room, rest, you have earned it," he said. The next day the police came to the bakery. It was closed, they found nothing. The driver in the holding cell had his accident and could not talk. The bakery bread smuggling story faded from the news, a curious dead end. Rossi's organization tightened security. Elena was praised for her strength. She was given more responsibility. She moved more of her things into the room at Rossi's house. She was his now in every way, his protégé, his confidant, his lover. But every night she lay awake, listening for the sound of footsteps in the hall, waiting for the day Marco would find out, waiting for the day a report would come in of a woman and boy matching Stella and Daniel's description, found somewhere. The guilt was a constant ache, but so was a tiny, fierce spark of hope. She had saved them. She had done one good thing in this terrible world. 6 months passed, the operation grew. Elena was essential. She was cunning, careful, and ruthless in her business decisions. Rossi trusted her more and more. He talked about the future with her in it. One evening they were in his garden. He held her hand. "You have rebuilt yourself, Elena. You are stronger than the woman who cried over stale bread." She smiled, a practiced, perfect smile. "You showed me my strength." He believed her. Later that night, alone in her room, she took out a hidden, cheap phone. A phone no one knew about. She typed a text message to a number she had memorized. A number for a secure service that would forward a message untraceably. It was only 2 words, sent into the void, hoping they had found some kind of peace. "Are you safe?" She waited, minutes passed, then an hour later a single reply came. "We are baking bread, thank you, Zia." A sob escaped Elena's throat. She quickly deleted the messages and destroyed the phone's SIM card. She stood by the window, looking out at Rossi's walled garden, a beautiful prison she had chosen. She had lost her bakery, she had lost her soul, she had become a monster in a fine suit. But in some other city, in a small kitchen, a boy was safe, a mother was free, and they were baking bread. For Elena, that would have to be enough. Thank you for watching. Could you have made Elena's choice? What would you have done to survive? Let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe for more stories where one decision changes everything. The line between monster and savior is thinner than you think.